Hello guys, my name is Tom, and in this video I want to show you how you can get perfect exposure and also colors in all of your videos. And it's going to work with a DSLR, DSLM type of cameras, or even a full-size production camera. First, let's talk about getting the perfect exposure. So there's various tools out there that you can use to help you achieve that. The most common one, or the most popular one, I would say, is the light meter. And this is something definitely that you want to learn to use as you get, kind of further ahead in your career, because especially once you're working on bigger productions, let's say like a film shoot, you're going to be communicating to your lighting team not by telling them your camera settings, but you want to be able to tell them in actual light levels, and that's where a light meter comes in handy. Where a light meter might not be so handy is when you're actually adjusting the settings in your camera, and that's because especially today we're using all these different cameras, different sensors. We're using also all kinds of different lenses. Let's say f5.6 on one lens isn't necessarily an f5.6 on another lens. It might be slightly off. Also, if you're using, let's say, a variable ND filter, that's totally going to throw off your settings you're going to get with the light meter. Same thing, for example, of using like speed boosters or things like that. The first tool I'm going to show you that it's going to really work wonders when it comes to getting perfect exposure is something very simple and very affordable, which is a middle gray card. Here I have these kind of fancy ones from X-Rite. This is their passport version one, which just folds and allows you kind of take it with you on location, and it has a few other things that I'm going to show you later on. Here's a larger one, again from X-Rite, that shows you the middle gray, which is this little square here, and it shows you some other squares, which again come in handy when you want to do other things. But you can literally get these simple pop-out foldable middle gray cards that are around $10 on Amazon. And again, that's going to do the same thing. It's just as long as you have a proper middle gray. So here, as you can see, we have this middle gray in the shot. I have it here, up here. I can hold it up, and based on this, we can adjust our camera settings, or we can adjust the brightness of the light. In this case, I'm going to be adjusting the light since I don't have anybody operating the camera for me. And I'm just going to adjust it till basically this is exactly at the right level that it's supposed to be. So middle gray, or 18% gray as some people call it, is actually 40 IRE. Means that this thing should be around 40 IRE when in your final image, or in what your camera is capturing. So how would you figure this out? Well, the first way to do it is probably by using zebra in your camera. Pretty much all cameras these days have a zebras, so just enable that in your camera. In my case, again, because I'm here and I also want you guys to see, I'm going to enable it in this monitor. So enable zebra, and right now, you can adjust the zebra to different settings, right? So you can go from 100, usually will go down to around 50%. There are some cameras that will allow you to have zebra set to even 20, 30, whatever. But in this case, we have zebra, the lowest we can go is 50%. Well, this thing is actually, like I said, 40 IRE. So we want this square to be basically in the 40 level. How do I do that? Well, since my zebra right now is set to 50, if I increase the brightness of the light in here, so basically increase the exposure, and I'm going to do it just until you can see this square here, this middle gray is actually now, basically covered by the zebra. That's telling me that now this thing is around 50% or 50 IRE level, which is a little bit overexposed because, like I said, it's supposed to be 40. So easy way of doing that is now you can adjust your camera settings or adjust the brightness of your light just until this zebra basically disappears. Now, in your camera, if you can set the zebra to 40%, then you want to make sure that the zebra covers that area. But right now, I'm just going to basically take this and slowly decrease the light, and somewhere there, I can see yeah, there. Basically, you can see the zebra has disappeared off of those two middle gray areas. And now another way of adjusting exposure is by using histogram. Now, histograms are something that you're going to usually find in more kind of higher end cameras. So more like cinema kind of production cameras, or actually the Panasonic GH5 has it. That's one of the reasons why I like that camera. Well, anyways, this is how a histogram looks, as you can see. And literally what it's showing you is it's showing you here left to right. It's where it is in the shot. So if I move my hand, you can see like left to right, you can see everything kind of moving there, these levels. But the up and down is actually showing you percentage of your IRE. So up here, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but basically at the top here, we have 100%. Then the next line below that is 80%. 60, then we have 40% here, 20, and then the bottom one is 0. Different monitors might have slightly different scales, but it's going to tell you basically what the scale is. So since we know that this middle gray basically is 40 IRE, so we want that to be more or less at 40. So how would you adjust it is, like I said, again, make sure it's in your shot, and then adjust the brightness of the light. Now, right now we have the exposure set perfectly because I just adjusted it. So if we check this, you can actually see up here, there's like this little line, and this line actually represents basically the middle gray. If I cover this line, you'll see that that line now suddenly disappears, see? If I take my hand out, the line is clearly visible. But basically here I'm going to show you, if I increase the brightness now of the shot, so let's say increase it, you can see how drastically this went up. So right now our middle gray is at 60%, so there. So right now this is at 60%, that line. That's definitely not where you want to have this. And as you look at the shot right now, I basically look overexposed. So now I'm going to bring it down, like I said, to around 40. So, and this way you can get really specific, very exact with that thing. So right there it's hitting it exactly at 40. Now you can also go even lower if you wanted to, and you can see, for example, if you want to underexpose the shot. So here I'm going to put it to 20 IR, and you can see, and then the top one here, the 80 or 85, somewhere around there, it's supposed to be what's actually now at 60. So definitely it's underexposed, and I can tell that just by looking at the shot. So that's how you would use the histogram. So here, let me go again and adjust the brightness here till I get just the perfect kind of thing. So like I said, I want that middle gray to be at 40. So there it is, and I think that looks pretty good to me. So again, that's how you can use your gray card to make sure that you have perfect exposure. Now, what's the advantage of using something like the color checker here, whether it's the larger version or the smaller one? Well, because like I said, it shows you more than just the middle gray. It shows you 20%, for example, here, and you can see that there's another line here around where the 20% is, and then this one, which is 80%. So it shows you that also, that it goes up to 80% here, waveform. And again, you can use this with zebras too. So if I disable this and I go to zebras and I turn it on, and let's say set my zebra to 80%, right now, as you can see, just the top square here is highlighted by the zebra, and that's because we have a well exposed shot. Now, what do you have to do, for example, if you want to get perfect colors in your shot? And the way you do that is by basically adjusting your white balance in your camera. So again, if you can use this 18% gray, and so if you have the middle gray card, you can use that. In this case, I'm going to use this one. It's slightly brighter, and this surface actually from Color Checker is nice because it reflects all of the frequencies of light at identical basically intensity. So it doesn't shift the colors at all. It's not going to change your settings on you. So that's the reason why I'm going to use this. That's also one of the reasons why I like this little passport thing, because definitely a lot more handy to take with you than this bigger card. And like I said, it has the different exposure, has color checkers up here, but it also has a little card here, which is identical card as this larger version. You can use for white balance. So right now I'm going to go basically to behind my camera and just kind of adjust the white balance and show you guys how it looks. So as you can see, the colors in the shot are completely off. They're just way too blue. So I'm going to use a custom balance setting up here, and I'm going to use that card. And you can do this with a gray middle card, or in this case the white balance card. So in the settings here, I'm going to go to a custom preset, and I'm going to select white balance, and I want to basically zoom in, kind of make sure that and if you have to, you want to bring the camera closer to your subject, because you do not want to bring the card closer to the camera, because you want the card to be where your actor or your subject is going to be. So in this case, you want to make sure that you're just seeing that gray card, or like I said, in this case, it's the white balance card. And then you just press set, and that's going to balance the colors. You can see right away the colors look a lot nicer. So now the shot should be properly, like I said, balanced when it comes to colors. Now, if you want to take this a step further, I would say you probably want to take this into your editing software, and there adjust it. So I'm gonna do that actually in Adobe Premiere. This is gonna work pretty much in any editing software, and I'll show you again how easy it is to make sure it's spot on when it comes to exposure and color balance. So in your editing application, you want to bring up the shot where you can see your gray card, or in this case our color chart, and then we just turn on the scopes. So here's our histogram. In Premiere you can just right click on it and you can choose what kind of histogram you want. For example, or waveform, you can have the Luma right now, RGB. We just care about the brightness, I'll leave Luma on. And you kind of want to look at your gray card. So you can see there's a whole bunch of other mumbo jumbo because it's showing us everything that's in this shot, including me and then the background. But we just want to make sure that this middle gray is exactly in the middle. And I can see that up here. I can see this distinctive line. And then this middle gray is this distinctive line up here. So if I, for example, adjust exposure, you can see that line goes up because this gets brighter. If you want to kind of, clean it up so just easier to view, you can isolate the shot. So in Premiere, you can just go to your effects, take the pen tool, and let's say we'll just isolate this gray area here. And there you have it. Now when I look at the lumetri, it's just showing me that gray area. So I can again kind of go further and adjust the shot, and yeah, I'll leave it there. Basically, it's at 50. Now the advantage of using the X-Rite color checker is you also have the other values. So I can also see, for example, here the highlight, which should be more or less a 90 if IRI, and here the same thing for the shadows. It should be around 20. So I can see it's more or less there. Maybe the contrast, the gamma, could be further adjusted. I can do that, for example, here using the standard three-way color corrector. I can take the highlights, just slightly bring them up, and let's say the shadows, just kind of bring it down a little. And as I'm doing this, it affected my midtones, so I can, for example, take the midtones and pull them back up a little bit to 50. And right there, that's our color grading pretty much, or our adjustment of our brightness at least. And delete this, and you can see this is before, this is after. Just kind of has the right contrast. Before, the shot was kind of maybe a little too flat. But really, those kind of tiny adjustments, you're going to be doing them basically based on your preference. Now, when it comes to the color, the way you're going to do it is you're going to check the vector scope. So here, I'm going to enable the vector scope, and it's going to make it full screen. And again, you can see all of this kind of mumbo jumbo, and that's because we're seeing the whole shot. So we can again now isolate this. So just select the gray area here in our gray card, and look at the shot now, or the scopes, and you can see the colors are properly balanced because this gray card or white color card, it should just be here in the middle. Here, for example, is another shot where I just have that white balance card that I was using from X-Rite, and again I can look at the scopes, and again better to isolate it. So take here the little square, just basically you want to just look at the white part of the image, look at your scopes, and you can see it's exactly here in the middle. So it doesn't matter whether it's a gray card or this white balance card, it should be here in the center. Now, what if you have a shot that's badly done? For example, like this one here, before I did my white balance. Well, like I said, ideally you want to get the right color balance and exposure and all that stuff in camera. But let's say you were a little bit off, or in the case of this shot, I was way off. Can you fix it in post, as they say? Well, yes, you can fix it. So here, let's look at the waveform first. Enable it, and we'll disable vector scope. And again, I'm going to just isolate this area here. So let's say the gray card, or in this case, our three different areas here. So the highlights I can see there, this, and this. And I'm going to look at the scopes, and I can see definitely the shot is underexposed. The highlights are at 70, the midtones are at 30. It is a disaster. So definitely, like I said, I can fix it, but it's just going to introduce other artifacts. But let's say if this is the best I can do, then I can adjust it by adjusting the exposure in this case. So I'm going to just bring up the exposure. So somewhere there. So this sits more or less in the middle. And I can adjust the highlights now. I can go to our 3D color corrector, bring the highlights maybe just a tiny bit down. Somewhere there. And the shadows even, we can bring it down a bit. But again, the midtones, we got to bring them back up to 50. So I kind of just tweak this, the highlights and the shadows, till you kind of get it there more or less. So let's say like this. Now when it comes to the colors, again, I can, for example, just choose this mask to just look at these things here. Let's see, like that, just a gray tone. And I'm gonna look at the vector scope, and I can see here that these colors are definitely not, this basically should be right here in the center. So I can go to my basic color correction, and I can adjust here the temperature slider. So adjust it till this kind of goes in the middle. So there, I can adjust also my tint, because the tint, see, will push it towards between the magenta and the green. So kind of there, more or less, that should give it the right kind of white balance. So I made my adjustments. I can turn off my mask now. So it definitely looks better than, you know, before our adjustments, but it's not going to look as good as this shot where we got the settings right in the camera, right? Now, where the color checker can come in handy even more is basically when you actually look at the different color charts or the different color squares. So let's isolate that area with the pen. So there we have it. And now when we look at our scopes, you can kind of see that these different squares, they represent all these different primary colors in our vector scope. So we have the green here, starting with this one here, so it goes to green, and you should basically be seeing these going more or less to the appropriate colors. So the green to green, cyan to cyan, blue, magenta, red, and then the yellow. And as you can see right now, because we adjusted the colors, it looks correct. But for example, if I were to reset this again, any of the color adjustments, you can see the colors are not quite there. So we can kind of adjust it, like I said, again, by just pushing and pulling. You kind of want this to be equally going to all the different colors. So again, I'm gonna push this a little bit now towards the warm, adjust here this kind of color. I can also increase my just saturation, so overall just kind of brings it closer and makes it easier when you're working with these adjustments. So make these adjustments further like this. Let's say somewhere there. You kind of want to find like a good middle ground and bring down the saturation. And now we can turn off our mask and we can look at this shot. And you can see definitely did a much better job now by basically by using these different colors than just by using a gray card when it comes to white balancing or color balancing this shot. Again, this is how it looked before, underexposed, and the colors were not done. And this is looking now afterwards how. So hopefully this wasn't too confusing for you guys. Like I said, once you sort of start doing this, you're gonna, it's gonna become second nature very quickly. For sure, at least get a middle gray card. And like I said, you can get the cheap one on Amazon, the kind of fold out one for 10 bucks. So I'll provide the link for that in the description of this video. But if you want to get something even better, then get something like this from X-Rite, or their passport version actually is really handy because, again, fits in your pocket. You can throw this over your neck, and it's just easier to carry it with you. And aside from just having a middle grade, I also have, like I said, the other values. You have your different color checkers up here for making sure your color balance is, can be basically fine-tuned later on. And on the other side, you actually have here for your white balance sheet. You also have on the bottom here, you have another sheet for focusing. So with the converging lines, makes focusing super easy. You just have your actor kind of hold it more or less where their eye line is, and you just focus in on the center here. So definitely a cool little gadget to have. Or let's say maybe you're looking for some gift ideas for Christmas for somebody in your life who's into videography or photography. It's going to work for both. Again, a great gift idea. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you click thumbs up. And if you want information on where you can get this or the other gray card, you can just check the links in the description of this video. Or as always, you can go check out my website at tomantosfilms.com. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.